Hafiday. Well, you know, it's my honor and my privilege to preside over the presidential lecture series, and this is our 30th one. It's hard to believe. You know, we've had a very interesting group of speakers over the years, but none as exciting as this one. So, you know, I was telling our distinguished guest this evening that all the time I was growing up in Guam, you know, basketball was the favorite sport. Everybody loves to play basketball. And I kept telling people, you know, we're just too short to play basketball. None of us will ever make it into the NBA. We ought to try out for a sport like, you know, baseball that's kind of like more fit to the kind of the average built of people in Guam. But, you know, our special guest this evening is going to break that mold. Standing at 5 feet 3 inches, Muggsy Bogues is the shortest person to ever play in the NBA. Played point guard for 14 seasons in the NBA. He's best known for his 10 seasons with the Charlotte Hornets. Also played for the Washington Bullets when they were still the Bullets, Golden State Warriors, and Toronto Raptors. Bogues was born in Baltimore, Maryland. He led Dunbar High School to a national championship in 1983. On his high school team, 4 of them went to the NBA, if you can believe that. 4 of his teammates at Dunbar High School, and they're doing a 30, he was just telling me they're doing a 30 for 30 special on it, and we're going to be seeing it pretty soon. He went on to attend Wake Forest University, finishing his college career as the ACC career leader in steals and assists. 1987, he was selected 12 overall by the Washington Bullets in the draft. Bogues was later drafted by the Charlotte Hornets in the 1988 expansion draft and led the Hornets to its first ever appearance in the NBA playoffs. Bogues spent 10 years in Charlotte, playing along teammates like Alonzo Mourning and Larry Johnson. Later on in his career, Bogues went on to play for the Golden State Warriors and Toronto Raptors, and he retired in 2001 as the 16th all-time leader in assists. Bogues is now the head coach of the United Faith Christian Academy Boys High School basketball team in Charlotte, North Carolina. He's also written an autobiography entitled In the Land of the Giants, recounting the struggles of not only playing in the NBA with people large, bigger than him, but also growing up in inner city Baltimore. Last month, Bogues was announced as the first-time candidate for the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame. When I was in the 9th grade, I stood all of 5'2", and I was attending high school in California. So I told the coach, I said, you know, I want to try out for basketball. And then he just looked at me and he laughed. He goes, you know, here at Norwalk High, we have the varsity, we have the junior varsity, we have the B's, the C's, and the D's. And you know, Robert, if you're lucky, you'll make it to the D's. I never made it to the D's. So I was unlucky. But you know, I'm really thrilled and honored, and especially to see so many of you on this very first day of the semester, not even opening classes until tomorrow. But I'm proud to present to you Muggsy Bogues, but first we're going to see something from his career.
First time I don't have to adjust the mic. Half a day. Well, God has a plan, and Doc, your calling was here to guide these young individuals with the bright minds as they have. So don't feel too bad that you didn't make that D team, you know, because it let it all out for me to come here to share my story with you guys. First, I just want to say thank you all for allowing me to come in here to share my testimony with you all. I want to give a big shout out to Patrick for having such a great heart, a great understanding of how to give back to the community, to see it bigger than what it really is in terms of for you all to hear from someone of my stature to give you as I said, my testimony in terms of your outgoing, in terms of what you want to do in life. So for me to be here today, I'm very blessed and very honored. Many, many years ago, I started this journey trying to pursue a dream that I carried around in my head for so long. You know, even at the age of 3 years old, when I first got this round object that was so big, so bouncy, didn't understand what it was, couldn't control it. But as I continued to play with that orange object and continued to know it and massage it and realize that it was something that I really loved playing with, I started understanding it was the game of basketball that I want to pursue. At the age of 5 years old, some unfortunate things happened in my life, which changed my whole trajectory of life, and I'm happy, not happy that it did so, but as I say, God always have a plan. Growing up in the inner city of Baltimore, Maryland is not one of the easiest places to grow up in. We had a lot of violence take place out of our neighborhood, a lot of drug festivities going on. Very easily be influenced to want to pursue some of the negative things that you may think that is promising and it look good on the outside. Selling drugs, making money, wearing the fancy sweatsuits, the nice tennis shoes, because we didn't have that growing up. But I had a bigger calling. And when I one day went outside of my house without my mama's permission at the age of 5, being nosy, because a fight took place outside of my window. While I was out there, unfortunately, I got shot. And I still carry the momentum in my arm, which one of the pellets, and I got a couple in my leg. But from that moment on, it really changed my life, because I became this kid who didn't care what anyone thought about me, anyone, what they said, or what they even thought who I would become in life. And pursuing the game of basketball at so small, didn't realize how much negative words that you would hear trying to pursue a hobby. People were, kids could be really cruel when you're trying to pursue something, and not knowing and not having the proper tools to deal with it, it can really send you on the wrong path. A lot of kids, a lot of folks told me, Muggsy, at the time, I'm sorry, my name was Tyrone. My mama named me Tyrone. And they were like, Tyrone, Ty, why are you trying to play this game, which is supposed to be meant for taller people? Why are you wasting your time out here pursuing this game? It has no meaning to your life. You have nothing to where you can pursue a dream to play this sport, because the game of basketball is meant for taller people. But for me, I didn't listen to that. It just came in one ear out the other. For so long, I'm carrying around this dream in my head, want to pursue and play the game of basketball, not even thinking about the NBA. I just wanted to play basketball. Going out there in the playground, playing pickup games, that was even difficult. Because if you all know, when you're out there playing a pickup game, it takes 2 people to shoot, and the first 2 makes it, they get to choose their team. I was never chosen. So because I wasn't chosen, I created my own basketball. I took 2 milk crates, cut the bottom out of it. I tied it on each end of the fence because it was made of the whole court. And I gathered a couple of my little friends, and we started playing basketball on milk crates. And you can jump off the fence, and you can dunk the basketball, so it felt like I was up really high. But it gave me, and it continued to instill confidence to keep going out there playing. But one day changed. When I was about 8 years old, we went out there on the playground. This time, I got a chance to shoot before they shot, and I made it. So now I get to choose the teams. And from that moment on, I was always on a basketball team, because the things that I did on the basketball court, the way I played the game and the way I pursued the game, was very aggressive. And even though I was this tall at the time, but I was so close to that basketball, I made it real difficult for guys to get across half court. And I owe this all to a young man in our neighborhood who worked at our recreation center, who came back and gave me that information. Gave me the information of what the fundamentals of the game of basketball was about. How to dribble, how to shoot. And we used to be in the gym hours and hours playing, trying to figure out how to play this game. And the way he did it and how he taught me, because he knew guys were so tall and that I had to shoot over him, he took a broomstick and he held it up right by the rim, and he made me constantly keep shooting that ball over that broomstick. So I had the art to get the ball over a taller guy, because people was wondering, how do you get the ball over those taller guys, being so short? It comes from practicing. The things that I was able to learn as a kid, the fundamentals of the game of basketball. And that was the key for me, learning the fundamentals of the game. And when Mr. Howard took me under his wing and gave me that information, I think that information allowed me to become the young man that I am today in terms of with the game of basketball. That's when I start pursuing it very heavily, start changing people's minds, because a kid my size shouldn't be playing this game. When I was 7 years old, I got a nickname, and it was no longer Tyrone. My nickname became Muggsy Bogues. And the way I got that name is because I was mugging. I kept stealing the ball, as I said, making it difficult for guys to bring the ball across half court. So they was like, he's just mugging everybody. And then at the time, it was a show that was coming on every Saturday. It was the Bowery Boys. And the Bowery Boys, it was a character named Muggsy. And he was kind of the leader of his little gang in his, on that TV show. And when I grew up, as Dr. alluded to, I had 4 other teammates that pursued that same dream. And can you imagine growing up in the inner city, having a dream to want to play the basketball, and you had your friends encouraging you? And at the time, again, I'm here, they about right here, not as much taller, but as we continue to get a little older, I continue to stay here, and they continue to keep growing. So Reggie Williams happened to be one of those guys. The late Reggie Lewis, may he rest in peace, and David Wingate, who also grew up with me in the neighborhood. And that's unreal when you have 4 guys come out the same neighborhood to pursue a dream to make it that high. But it all stems from our upbringing, where we came from, what we was instilled and what we was taught, the values. And for me, it became more evident that I had to focus on the little details, because you guys wasn't here, many of you, but some of you guys remember, back in the early 70s, the terminology of athletes was labeled as dumb jocks. Dumb jocks. And for me, pursuing a game as an athlete, being small, I didn't want to ever be stereotyped as a dumb jock. So the academics as well as basketball became very important for us. We, early on in our life, got that information, how to be a student athlete as opposed to an athlete student. By having that balance, it kept us on our path, going out there, pursuing it, practicing, putting many hours in, as I had to really do, because I had to change mindsets, had to break down barriers, because the coaches, they all like big guards. And I understood that. They was kind of inquisitive minds, wanted to know why a little guy out here pursuing this game that's supposed to be meant for bigger guys. But again, I had to continue to change the mindsets, continue to let people know that this game is meant for whoever had the ability to play the game of basketball. And the only way I was able to do so, and where I felt like once I get an opportunity to play, and when you play against the best, and if you have success against the best, then obviously you will be included with the best. So that was the mindset that I had to take on the court each and every time I played. And by doing that, I was able to walk away from that game and having other people walk away from the game saying, gosh, that little guy dominated the game. And the way he dominated the game, it wasn't about him scoring a lot of points. It was about how he controlled the game. He controlled the tempo. He got everybody involved. And at the same time, he only had about 5 points, 7 steals, and about 11 or 12 assists. But I understood what that point guard responsibility was. And it goes again from the information that I was able to obtain as a youngster. From a point guard, you have to be the extension from a coach. And if I was going to make it, I had to truly understand how to be different, how to impact the game as a 7-footer will impact the game. And by being aggressive, and I knew it stemmed from the point guard. If I disrupt him, then it's going to disrupt the whole offense. It's going to disrupt the whole team. Because it always starts somewhere. And by me having that understanding, I was able to keep changing the mindsets of the outsiders as well as the coaches, I should say, or the minds, the brains behind the game of basketball. Because now they kept saying, this is something different. Normally we see this from a 7-footer, a guy blocking shots, controlling the game that way. But here it is, we seeing it from I wasn't 5'3" then. I probably was about 3'8". This little kid out here pursuing a dream, just changing the game. That's unheard of. But he's only in elementary school. You know, by the time he get in middle school, all the kids will be a lot more taller, a little more bigger, stronger, and, you know, that'll be done with it. But come middle school, he's still having this same success against these guys. They got a little bigger, he didn't, but he's still having the impact on the game of basketball the way a 7-footer would have it. That message, that kind of thinking stayed with me all the way up into high school. Well, okay, well, I know when you get to high school, much bigger guys, stronger guys are going to be able to just take him down low. They post him up, and coach is going to have to take him out because it's going to be causing too many difficulties on the court, and he is not going to be able to play. High school, we had some of the most talented guys on the basketball team at that time. As I said, myself, Reggie Williams, the late Reggie Lewis, and David Wingate. That year, we became the #1 team in the nation. We went 28-0. So it was like, wow, this kid really is out here pursuing this game at a high level, and not only that he's having success, but he's having success at a high rate. He's no longer one of the little small kids just trying to play the game. He's out there really changing the game. He's having a really impact on this game of basketball. So maybe we need to give him a serious look. Still, that really didn't get all the coaches behind me, college coaches I would say, because they still felt high school is totally different from college. He might have success in high school, but college basketball is a whole new ball game. You're talking about bigger, stronger guys. And now I'm about I'm 5 feet now. 11th grade, I'm 5 feet. I grew another 3 inches or 2 inches my senior year, and I became 5'3". And then, of course, we also went undefeated that year. We went 31-0. So my 2 years in high school, we was 59-0. That was a team that they say now probably was the best high school team that's ever been assembled. Being able to go 59-0 without losing the game. And it wasn't like we was playing this local team. We traveled all over the world. And that was unreal for us, knowing that we was a high school basketball team traveling the way we was traveling. But all that was more our coach, Coach Bob Wade, who had the fortitude to understand what we needed, how to prepare us for life and for the game of basketball for the next level. You know, Coach, he was fortunate enough to play professional football. And he came back to take some young men who had big, big egos, but he was able to manage them to where we all operated as one. And as you know, as guys, you start having success in something, and we all do get egos, it can become, you know, very difficult to deal with. But Coach had the understanding and had the toughness to bring that together, to bring us into make us a team and make us a unit. And he became more than just a coach for us. He was more like our father figure, because a lot of us, we didn't have that in our household. Unfortunately for me, my pops got put in prison when I was 12 years old. And that changed the whole narrative in my household. My mom, she didn't have the education at the time because she had dropped out in 11th grade. But seeing what she went through made it more important that I had to do something positive for my life. She went back to night school and got her diploma because she didn't want her kids on welfare. She didn't want them growing up on housing to where they had to rely on that type of financial income. So she changed my mindset because I knew the difficulty it took for her to go back to provide for the 4 kids that she had to take care of. And by her doing that, it gave me a really true sense of what parent is all about. And as I said, my dad was no longer in the household, and here it is. I was very blessed, I thought, because it wasn't many couples in our neighborhood that had both parents in the household. That's just the way it was when we grew up. That's where it was where we was living. But we still felt like, you know, we had anything that anybody else had. That's how important she made it for us. Made it that we didn't have to go without. We still had our Christmas, Easter, we celebrated. I still got a nice little outfit. So I felt like my mom really, really went out my way, and I knew she couldn't afford it, to make sure that we still didn't miss a beat and celebrate what the tradition that we had going in our household. So that became very, very humbling to me, to where I had to make sure that I had to do something to make sure one day I could be in a position to give back. I have 2 older brothers. I lost my sister last year, who was a big part of my heart. And seeing what she went through, dealing with cancer, didn't realize, you know, how much love that you have for your siblings. You all take it for granted that you love one another. And unfortunately in our household, we didn't tell each other we loved you. That was something that we took for granted. But as you get older, you start to understand a little more. But as I went through, and as she able to, you know, now she rests in peace, But the things that she was doing in her life, it kind of gave me a sense that if she can do it, I can do it. Because my sister was very tough. She was an athlete as well. But my mom, as I said, she was the one that kind of put things in perspective for us of what life should be, and continue to stay on our journey, continue to stay on our path. But with her, with her being who she was, 4'11", like a little pistol, she was determined that her kids were going to be successful. And I knew that I wasn't going to let my dream go, regardless of what people were saying about me. So, as I was saying, how Coach played a big part in my household, because he became that father figure for me. I looked up to him, and he took us under his wing to show us what love can really be as a man, and how affectionate it could be in your household. And he had his wife and his family, and by saying him with his family and the way he treated his wife, it really gave us a sense of what true family, what we can possibly have in life. And even though my mom was there raising her by herself, I had that male figure still present in my household. And that's really huge for a kid, knowing that you have a male figure still giving you that male guidance in your life. And that's so important. That was so important for me growing up. And it allowed me to continue to pursue the dream that I had. As I said, people could be cruel. But as we start to gain that type of recognition in high school, being the #1 team in the nation, having these college coaches coming in, recruiting these kids, and of course, they was coming and recruiting the Reggie Lewis, the Reggie Williams, the David Wingates. But when they left out of the practice, they was talking about the Muggsy Bogues. That kid possibly could really have a future in college basketball. Even though I was on the national team and I was the one that's operating it, I still wasn't getting that serious consideration. He could run a Division I program. But as I said, it only takes someone with vision, someone with understanding, knowing how important a player could be to their program. And I start getting letters from other smaller colleges, and then later on, I start receiving some serious considerations. Seton Hall University, Boston University, Wake Forest University, Maryland. So then I start realizing, are these teams really coming after me? Are they really serious? Oh, I forgot one team, Virginia. So once I go to some visits, I take a few visits to schools, but once I get to the school, took a visit to Virginia, they had a kid by the name of Ricky Stokes. Ricky Stokes happened to be a smaller stature basketball player, but Ricky was like 5'9", close to 6 feet. So Coach Collins, he told me, well, Muggsy, we can offer you a scholarship, but we like to redshirt you. We want to redshirt you, just bring you on campus, have you here. Possibly you'll be able to, play the next year, and, Ricky's here and Othell Wilson here, so we may have some room for you. For me, I had a big ego. That didn't sit well for me. So I kept pursuing other visits, but this visit from Wake Forest was very special. It was special in a sense because it was a challenge more for me off the court than on the court. It was a private university. It was a school that I wasn't accustomed to academically, as well as culturally. It was I wouldn't say all, majority it was white. 90% it was a white school. First time, and growing up in the inner city, being around African Americans your whole time, it was a culture change for me. But it was the best change in my life, the best decision I made in my life, because it challenged me on the court as well as off the court. I knew if I get my degree from this university, regardless of basketball, I was going to be successful in life. That was my goal, to be successful in life. But at the same time, I knew my success stems from that game of basketball. And I decided I'm going to take this leap of faith and I'm going to choose Wake Forest University. Told my mom, this is it. I'm going to sign early, didn't wait till the signing period in March come around. I told her, even though it's different, I'm not accustomed to what this culture is, but I think it's going to be best for me because I know it's going to challenge me. It's going to give me that type of values that I need to keep moving forward, to keep navigating through this world because information is so important. And by having that understanding and by continuing to have that vision, it allowed me to really be clear and be humble, well, not be humble, be happy with the decision that I made. And not only that, I knew my mom couldn't afford to be going traveling to go watch me play basketball. But I knew every Saturday she could turn on that television and she could see her little boy, her little baby, play the game of basketball, which she loved. And my mom, she wasn't the one that knew about the game of basketball. Because I always used to tell them how, when I was a kid, how much I used to come in and tell her how cruel kids was. But my mom always had an understanding. She just tell me, Ty, don't listen to them. No one know how big your heart is. They don't know your capability, and they definitely don't know your potential. So you don't let them destroy what you're carrying around in your head. You keep dreaming. And at the time, I'm like, okay, Mom, okay, all right. But as I got older, that narrative just stuck in my head. It became part of me because she was so right. As they say, sticks and stones will break your bones, but words can hurt you. She was so right because those were just words. And those were just words that from other folks who had no insight what I wanted and how I was going to go about getting what I wanted. Because no one can be an expert on your life. No one knows what you're capable of. So that's one of the reasons that I'm here today, because I didn't listen to any of them. I kept pursuing my dream, the vision that I carried in my head for so long. And once I got on that campus, and as you always hear, well, here it is. He had great success in high school, but this college, boy, it's a whole new world. Bigger, better, stronger guys. My first game against playing against Richmond University, I played about 8 minutes that day. And where I came from, I played pretty much the entire game. So that was another change for me. But I had to humble myself and understand that there was someone ahead of me that I need to learn from. He was a senior. Because before I can lead, you got to know how to follow. So by learning from him what I needed, then come my sophomore year, that's when the basketball world, the world knew about Muggsy Bogues. We had a national game against NC State. At that time, you had Spud Webb, who had to be another small guard. He was 5'7". being coached by Jim Valvano. May Coach Valvano rest in peace. It was a national televised game. They just pumping this game up. The two little big guys about to play the game of basketball. It happened to be almost a snowstorm that almost that came down. They almost canceled the game. And one of the famous commentators by the name of Al McGuire was on that game. He almost got snowed in. He was coming from Boston. He called another commentator by the name of Billy Packer, who's from the ACC area. And he was like, Billy, I ain't gonna be able to make it. He was like, well, Al, if any kind of way you can make it, you got these two little guys going against each other. It's gonna be unbelievable. You've never seen it before. You know, you got to try. You got to, hopefully you can make it. So Al McGuire made that game. That game, unfortunately for us, we won. Fortunate we won. Unfortunate for Spud, they didn't win. But that was one of the best games. That was the game of my life at that time. I had 20 points, 10 assists, and 4 steals, and had some great highlights. And Billy Packer, he was out of his seat. He made a comment that here it is, this game right here alone should elect this young man in the Hall of Fame. Even if he never make or play another game of basketball or go in the NBA, this game alone should allow him to become a Hall of Famer. He said, I'd never seen a guy so small impact the game of basketball such as Ralph Sampson or Patrick Ewing at the time, who was in college, 7-footers, as I said, how they impact the game. I'd never seen a guy this side impose his will on a game like he has. So of course that gave me confidence, made me feel good, and from that moment on, I knew I belonged on the court with the best. My junior year, that's when the NBA became aware of Muggsy Bogues. I didn't think they were early on. I think they had that same mindset, that same ideology. Well, NBA is a whole new world. We got men up here. Bigger, stronger, the best in the world. We talking about the best in the world. There's no way this little kid is going to be able to play on this platform with these outstanding players like a Magic Johnson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Larry Bird, Isaiah Thomas, Joe Dumars, Bernard King, Moses Malone. There's no way this kid could play this game with these guys. I got selected to play in the USA basketball team to represent our country in the Goodwills game. And it was a challenge making that team. On the committee, it was Bobby Knight, Brian Colangelo, and keep in mind, to get selected on that team, they invited the best of college. Here it is, the Kenny Smiths, the Mark Jacksons, the Steve Alfords back then, Curtis, I don't know if you guys remember Curtis Hunter back then. Then you had another player by the name of Steve Kerr, Brian Shaw, Sean Elliott, all these guys. We all trying out 12 spots, got 50 guys on the court trying to make a team. And here it is, you hear it again. Why is this little kid up here trying to pursue this? He's good, but we've got to go across the world, play against professional. Because at the time, we still collegiates. We still college athletes. To go represent the United States, to go play against the USSR, Yugoslavia, Brazil. Those are professional leagues, professional players. So during practice, every team that coach put me on, we won. So he was saying, gosh, damn, this little kid, every team we put him on, he win. So what they did, they said, well, we're going to mix it up. We're going to kind of put him on this team that hasn't won all camp, all week. We're going to put him on this team. We won. So that's the decision come down to we got to select 12 players to represent. Out of those 12, I was one of them. I got an opportunity to go represent the country. We went over, we started off in Barcelona, playing against a young man by the name of Oscar Smith, one of the best in the world over in Europe. We won. We had great success against him. Then we had another player by the name of Drazen Petrovic, who fortunately played in the NBA, and may he rest in peace. Drazen was he was considered the Michael Jordan of Europe. He just scored 44 points the game before. This was a game that we had to have because during that process, every game you get points. Drazen, again, as I said, was unbelievable scorer. So come that game, Coach Crimmins come up to me and asked me, Muggsy, how you feel about playing against Drazen Petrovic? I said, oh, Coach, I got him. No problem. And for me, that's just how I always responded. And for him, I knew that he wasn't accustomed to a guy my size playing against him. Because he was the type of guy that loved to work off the dribble. And it was very difficult to dribble the ball around me. That's just what my strength was. Being able to have that instinctive way of stealing the basketball, making a guy comfortable dribbling the basketball. As I said, he had 44 games the night before. That game, he only had 12. We won that game, and we advanced to go on to play the USSR, which is Arvydas Sabonis, who, again, was a big-time player in Europe. 7 foot, pass the basketball, shoot the basketball. He also was considered the Michael Jordan of Europe. We were able to play that gold medal game. We up by 18 at halftime, so we felt like this game is all over with. Not knowing how tough them Russians were, they came back and made a very interesting game. But fortunate enough for us, this collegiate team of college athletes wind up winning the gold medal. And that was the last time college athletes was able to go and represent the country to win home a gold medal. And fortunate enough for me, I was lucky enough to be the one standing on the podium, holding up the cup for our country, representing the United States. So that was a big, big accomplishment that we was able to take on as collegiate basketball players. And then after that, 88, we lost the Olympics. And then after that, we all know that's when the Dream Team was formed in 92. No more collegiate basketball players represented us on the USA's platform. So now, here it is. This young man just put himself on the national stage senior year, having a great senior year, led the lead in assists, led the lead in steals, but still, again, this is the big boy league. This kid can't pursue this type of basketball playing up here on this level. So here it is. I get invited to what's called the combine now, as they call it. Portsmouth. So I'm still trying to break mindsets, still trying to break down this barrier, still trying to prove myself that I can play this game. I belongs just like anyone else. But for some odd reason, the NBA world still wasn't buying it. They had to see it for themselves. Because as you send recruits out, or their scouts out, it's not the same when you're seeing it up close and have your own opinion. So I got a chance to go to Portsmouth, went down there and really turned it out. Became the MVP of that tournament. So now I got invited to the Chicago camp, which is the last camp that all the NBA coaches, the GMs, get an opportunity to go see. I was projected to go late second round. Scottie Pippen was projected to go early, probably late first, somewhere in the middle. But during that camp, Scottie Pippen and I had to team up. And I had another gentleman on my team named Ricky Winslow, who happened to play with the Five Slammer Jammers. Those were some very athletic guys that's all I needed in terms of me playing it, pushing the ball, being able to make them look good. So after that basketball camp, I left the impression that this kid is for real. He's no longer a novelty. He's no longer someone that we don't think that he can play this game. We know that he's one of the tops players in our game. So now I get a call to get invited to the draft. Sitting out there with all your colleagues, knowing that the draft taking place, and knowing that no one my size ever walked across the stage and shook Commissioner David Stern hand and put that hat on his head. Sitting there, listen to all the names being called. First name, David Robinson. Second name was called by Army and Gilliam. The third name was called Dennis Hobson. Fourth name was called Reggie Williams, who grew up with me. Fifth name, Kevin Johnson. Then you hear Kenny Smith. Then you hear Scottie Pippen, Horace Grant, Olden Polynice. And then number 11, you hear Reggie Miller. And then the Washington Bullets come up and say, for the 12th pick, the Washington Bullets select Tyrone Muggsy Bogues. The whole world was lifted off my shoulders. A dream that I carried around in my head for so long. No one in the world believed that a kid that size could play the game with these Hall of Famers who was now in the game, to pursue the dream just like anyone else on that platform. And Lord knows that was an unbelievable journey for me to be able to accomplish something for so long, not knowing that it was going to happen. It's a great feeling. It's an unbelievable feeling, especially knowing how important it is that you're about to change the whole trajectory of your household, that your mama no longer have to work again, that you can be able to provide for others, people in your community. Boy, that was an unbelievable feeling, unbelievable. And to this day, I am still humble and grateful and blessed that I was able to accomplish that goal. No. But I just wanted to share those testimony, that kind of journey with you guys, because especially for you guys, the younger generation now, people could be cruel, but when you believe in yourself and truly, truly have that confidence in yourself, no one can stop your dream. No one can stop your dream. As I said, God has a plan for us all. We all have a gift. We all gifted. It's just we got to recognize what that gift is. And when we recognize it, ooh, that's the most unbelievable feeling in the world. And it's not all about money. It's about where you're doing with your life and how you're providing for that particular individual or that particular family, or if you don't have a family, yourself. It's how you've been operating as a citizen. And as things today, being MLK week, this is an unbelievable world that we live in. Life is not promised to you. I left the game of basketball in 2001. Played at the 14th season. Could have played 17. My mama passed away. Just didn't have no more strength to go out there no more. Because she was my heartbeat. She wasn't there to witness me playing anymore. So I didn't have the strength to go out there. So I just walked away from it. Happily. I did well with my money. And I was satisfied with what I've given to the game of basketball. And I had no regrets on walking away from what I walked away from, because it gave me all that I gave it all that I had to give. I couldn't give no more. But I understood what life is and what it means. And as I say, life is not promised to you. I lost a lot of people in 2015. I lost folks in 2016. And we're going to continue to keep losing folks. So we can't take life for granted. So we got to continue to keep pursuing what you want to pursue, and do it as humble as you possibly can. Because the same people you meet up, same people you're going to meet going down. I always stay humble, never looked at myself as a celebrity. It just happened that I play in a celebrity world, that people admire the things that you do. That's why I always take the time out to make sure I make that person feel, if they feel special at that time, make them feel like we do know one another, that we have. And I appreciate you, appreciate the things that I've done. To take the time out to sign whatever you had to sign, or to take a picture or whatever, because you may not run into that person again. So I truly understand the impact of appreciation. And I truly understand the impact of giving back. But for you guys going forward, as I said, don't let anyone take a dream away from you, because that's where it starts. You gotta visualize where you wanna go. As you visualize it, you keep taking those steps. And as you realize those steps that you've taken, boy, oh boy, you are right at your reality. And that's how life works. We only get one, so why not make the best out of it? So guys, I truly appreciate that you sitting there, listen to my stories and seeing me sob and share these joyful tears. because I'm in tune with who I am, and I am grateful for what God has given me. Thank you very much.
We have a little bit of time for some Q&A with Mr. Muggsy Bogues. So if anybody out there in the audience has a question, we'll take a few questions before we have a presentation from the university.
Any question? Don't be bashful.
I'm just waiting for you.
Oh, okay.
Have you enjoyed your time on Guam so far?
Oh, I've been having an unbelievable time in Guam. I've been there, met quite a few locals, been to a lot of the local restaurants, ate all the local food. I've been jet skiing. I went to Lovers Palace. Two Lovers Point. How can I forget that? Two Lovers Point. Went to Two Lovers Point. So it's been an unbelievable trip for me. I mean, I had a great time today at the high school with the kids, and we had a great time doing the clinic the other day with the kids. So it's been very inspirational for me. The hospitality has been overwhelming. Yes, sir.
Who's the best player you ever played against in the NBA, in your opinion? And what teams or players do you follow now?
Well, the best player that was, I mean, that's easy to say. You know, that's Michael Jordan, who was the best player that played the game. You know, he's the GOAT. Yeah. Yeah, I know that discussion is going on right now, but yeah, MJ is different. I love LeBron and those guys who's come along, and Julius Erving, but MJ was the only player that had no deficiency. As you think about it, every player has some sort of deficiency in their game. He's the only guy that had the fundamentals as well as athleticism combined. And that's what separated him from the others. His mindset, you knew where the ball was going, no matter if you double team or not. He was always the one that delivers. And that's something that you can't take away from that. And he was able to stay on top throughout his entire career. And there was no letdown from it. And the other part of it, you said the best team. Today, of course, you know, I'm kind of biased to Steph. You know, she's just like a little son, little nephew. You know, me and his dad played 11 years together. And he's, you know, him and my son and my daughter, you know, they grew up together, him and Seth. And so I got kind of biased with that. But Chris Paul, you know, before he went to the league, you know, CP was, you know, someone I mentored. And kind of, you know, that demon at Wake Forest fraternity is always intact. And of course, you know, with VC, playing with V, you know, Vince Carter, you know, man, when he was young, being able to give him that type of, you know, understanding, tutelage, take him under his wing, to let him know what true the NBA is all about. And because we all got to do that. You know, Moses Malone did it for me. You know, may Moses rest in peace, and him and Manute Bol, you know, my two favorite, as well as LJ and Lonzo and Dell. You know, you got to continue to give back and let these youngsters know about the ins and outs of the NBA, because it's really true knowledge that you need going to be able to survive in that world. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm also Jo of GuamBasketball.com, and my question is in regards to your college career, heading into your pro career. You were how old? 22 perhaps when you graduated? So you went into the NBA draft, and after 14 years, I'm just looking at how it relates to the college players here. So your physical body and all the banging and the bumping and the bruises, how did you hold up through the 14 years? And that would have made you, what, 34, 36?
Yes.
So
37.
how's your body?
Oh, my body feels good. Like,
I'm just
Like,
asking
look,
for
yeah.
all the athletes here in
Yeah,
Guam.
yeah.
Physically,
Well-
you went through a really tough pro career.
Yeah, well,
So-
you're exactly right. Well, it's all about training. You know, you got to be physically fit, you know, in order to play the sport. The way the game is today, you know, you really truly have to be physically fit. You know, it's a change. You know, like I said, 6'9" in our world, you was playing with your back towards the basket. That was Karl Malone. You know, now you 6'9", you LeBron James out there, point guard. So that game has, you know, that's how evolution of the game has come. You know, the game has changed. But for the collegiate guys, no matter high school, college, it's all about the training. You got to prepare your body through that type of regimen. You got to make sure that you being healthy. You know, you lifting, you eating right. You know, you're training right. You know, I'm quite sure that's coaching has got a good program for those guys to keep them, you know, pretty active, trying to, you know, pursue their dreams. Yes, sir. What a great movie. Man, we had so much fun shooting that movie. Yeah, it was a great time. We went out California. We was out there for about a month, just having fun, shooting the movie, and you know, trying to, you know, it's something out of our arena. You know, we're not actors. We just out there having fun. But Michael did an excellent job, you know, working with the animation part of it, because that's very difficult. You know, not having no one there and there's that computer there and you kind of talking to someone, thinking in your body language. And at the time, I had surgery. You know, my knee, I had surgery on my knee. When I was walking, everybody was walking through the door and they hit their head, it looked like I was walking, didn't it? But I was being pulled on a dolly because I had surgery and I couldn't walk, so I had to move my shoulders like I was walking. Yeah, but I love my mama. Yeah, that was one of my favorite lines in there. They say they got a Space Jam 2 coming out. You know, you hear LeBron James' name thrown around, but I don't know who the other cast members are. But I tell you what, it's going to be very difficult to top that. You know, that was a movie for the entire family. And the soundtrack wasn't bad either. Yes, ma'am. On our team? He was on our USA team? Well, the people that was on our team was Tommy Amaker, who's now he's coaching Harvard University now. Steve Kerr. You met Brian Shaw, Kenny Smith, Sean Elliott, Armand Gilliam, Dirk McKee, David Robinson, Ronnie Cycli. So the guards were me, Brian Shaw, Tommy Amaker, Sean Elliott, and Kenny Smith. So I'm trying to a smaller. It was a long time. It was 86. Yeah. Oh, let me get him right. Yes. That's easy. The people. The people. It's the people. You know, buildings, water that doesn't serve as, you know, that's a great place to visit. I mean, good place to go see, but the hospitality, the warmth come from the people. You know, saying how unite, how humble, how inspiring you guys are, you know, how giving, family oriented, you know, the aspects of, you know, welcome one in their, you know, in their own backyard. I appreciate that wholeheartedly. Yes, ma'am. Believe it or not, I was never afraid about that. I always knew that I was going to make it. It was the outside world just didn't know. You know, I just. Yes, sir.
You've obviously had a great career and you have an awesome story. Just for some of the young people in here, what the importance of education? I know it's about 1.2% that actually make it to the exam. What is your views on the importance of education? One, and two, a lot of young people, everything's connected to social media. What's the importance of communication skills? So, what's education communication skills from your opinion?
Absolutely. Well, let me get that. What's the first question was? The importance of yeah. That's why when I first started about student athlete, as opposed to athlete student, that's the balance. You know, for the younger generation, you know, you got to be able to have that balance when you're pursuing your dream. The same amount of effort that you put in your schoolwork, if it's something that you have in your hobby, there's nothing wrong with putting that equal time in. Because we all know that whatever sport you participate in or you have a passion or have a dream to play, it's going to stop. Either you're not good enough, or you may get hurt, or Father Time's going to catch up with you. So the rest of your life is much more value to keep moving forward. So you got to be able to keep that balance. And with I was at the high school today, you know, giving them a more of a different type of lecture in terms of, you know, trying to now understand the importance because of the technology in this world today. It become so minute to where you just become confined to your machine. It's an education in itself outside those doors. You know, staying active, being able to understand the beauty outside. You know, regardless if you love a sport, but I think sport is just so, teach you so many values. You know, integrity, pride, sportsmanship. You know, how to get along with your colleagues or your teammates. So, you know, those things that you just can't take for granted, but it has a lot to do with staying active. You know, again, parents, we gotta push them out them side, push them outdoors, you know, keep them active. There's nothing wrong with having, you know, the devices, but it really serve a purpose of being able to get outdoor and stay active.
I have a question for you. Yeah.
Yes.
So you paved the way for a lot of other little guys coming through to the NBA. Do they ever, do you keep in contact with them? Do they look you up like the Nate Robinsons or like Isaiah Thomas, he just dropped 50, right? So.
Well, as you keep saying those names, I mentored those guys. You know, Nate Robinson, you know, even the Earl Boykin, before Earl Boykin came around. You know, they found a way to find me. And when I told Isaiah Thomas, you know, when he was playing with Sacramento Kings, and then he got traded to Phoenix, and then got traded to Boston, and he was on the bench in Boston, coming off the bench. I told him, this is the best opportunity for you, because you're going in a situation with a young coach who understands who you are. Even though you're coming off the bench, don't worry about that. When you get in there, you change the game. Change their mindset. Before the season was over, he was a starter. And then he got to be invited to the All-Star. So I still stay in contact with him. We text each other quite a bit. But those guys, you know, I'm just so happy and proud of. Because the game has changed now. You know, more back when we played, it was inside out. Now it's outside in. You know, very rarely that they throw the ball in. They stop and shoot threes all day. But that's the way the game is now. It's more fun, I say. Yes, sir.
One more question.
How'd I get fast? Ooh. I think that's God's gift. Yeah, I think that was a God gift. Yep. But you know, when I was younger, I didn't never lift weights. Even though I had thick thighs, I used to ride my bike. That was my transportation. You know, I ain't had no car. We had a phone, so bicycle, built my legs up quite a bit. And I didn't lift weights until I got to the pros. My college coach couldn't get me to lift weights because I was a little thick, and I thought that if I lift weights, I would get a little too thick, hard to move, because I was already stocky. I already had my legs were big, had a 44-inch vertical, so I was able to get up quite a bit and all that. So that's why, but the answer to your question, I think God just gave me that gift to be a little quick.
Sometimes when you have a special guest like this and you speak with a lot of character and authenticity, and that's really something that I think will last a long time with all of us. I want to thank Patrick for making your visit to here possible, and unfortunately. And even though I know God had another plan for me than that D team, I still think about it once in a while. But first of all, we want to make sure that you don't run out with any no GP or basketball. There you go, Triton's basketball. How about that? Probably be the shortest guy. Is there someone there shorter? All right, and they have some other things. But most of all, we want to present to you with this special Gladystone that we always do with the presidential lectures, and we monogram it, but on behalf of the University of Toronto, thank you very much. Want to put the hat on? That's the signal. Thank you so much. And you're still going to have the opportunity. I just want to add one more thing. He's leaving tomorrow, and he's very jet lagged. But I can tell you that just by the nature of his of what he does and the commitment to what he does, he just came to life. And more importantly, he brought us all to life. So again, thank you.